All right. Wow. What a crazy morning, crazy week. I just like literally ran into my office to get here on time because there's so much news to digest with all the earnings and lots going on with our individual stocks. Yesterday, we nailed it. You saw how excited I was on the show yesterday morning. I knew it. I had the confidence. And I think we have some good setups today also. So, let's just look first at these big mega cap earnings coming in and the impact on the market. So, last night we had Google and Microsoft. You can see it right at the top here. Google down 6%, Microsoft down 6.5%. Wasn't surprised about Google because there's been lots of signs with decreased ad spend. So no surprise to me on Google. But let's look at the technicals here. Look at that. Below the 20 DMA. Once we're below the 20 DMA, I think there's a good chance we retest the lows on Google. So let's go to the weekly, and you'll see there weekly support 200-week moving average at 93. I think we're probably going to test that, and we'll have to see, reassess if it goes below, and that can really impact the market. If Google goes below 200-week moving average, you got to figure the SPY possibly can also retest that critical level as well. And you can see the sympathy impact that move is having on Meta, Facebook. Surprisingly, though, there's been a lot of bad news in this ad space, and so kind of holding its lows. Is the worst of it in for Meta? I don't know, but possibly because of the way it's kind of holding this level here, this low from early 2000, late 2018. They report after the market. I don't think they're going to be a market mover anymore. $369 billion market cap. So that's going to be an individual story at this point on Meta. Microsoft. Now that I didn't have a read on how that would do, and it turned out to be pretty bad, pretty horrific. Look at this below the 20 DMA also. And you see the 200 DMA at 220. I want to show you from a screenshot I took earlier here from the news. So they really missed on all segments. So this one is really concerning for me. The more personal computing sales outlook showed the biggest impact from the current business environment. Microsoft is projecting sales in the range of 14.5 billion to 14.9 billion versus 16.9 billion. Over $2 billion shortfall in personal computing. To me, that's consumer discretionary spend, probably maybe the beginnings of that. Lost my watch list over there. Let's get back. Lots of watch lists over here. Go. Okay, so that's the beginning of concerns of maybe consumer discretionary spend, recession, things like that. Honestly, I'm surprised Apple is only down 1% on this and really retaining most of its gains from the whole week. If you look at most of the charts, everything is back down. Like if it rewinded like 3 days ago, Apple is still right here at the highs. I'm actually thinking of buying puts in Apple today. They have earnings in I don't know, is it tomorrow? Soon. It's this week, or Wednesday's tomorrow. I think Apple's tomorrow. I don't know if it's before or after the close, but that's something I might be playing. All right, we take a look at the SPY here. Pulling back a little bit. Remember, SPY is more diversified, a little bit safer, nicer chart than QQQ. It's still well above its 200-week moving average. So I really don't know. The big tech earnings look bad to me, and it looks like, hey, we can go back to these lows, but I don't know what it's going to do today because of this. TLT is up again. We saw this early yesterday morning, right at the end of our show, and that was a really good tell for risk assets. I saw that at the end of the day. I'm like, whoa, TLT is up. That's great for RK and risk assets, and it was. And if you look at RK actually this morning, it's really also not pulling back much, holding most of its gains this morning. Bitcoin, another proxy for risk assets, doing really well this morning. Okay, so I'm thinking, we discovered this correlation between TLT because TLT, the lower it goes, the higher interest rates go, the worse it is for risk assets and RK. Now that it's rebounding, interest rates going lower, better for risk assets. That's the relationship here. So the the bond market is smarter than the stock market, much bigger money. So I'm a little bit optimistic about continuation in some of our risk assets that we're trading here. So let me get into just a couple specific stocks, and then we're going to bring on a special guest here, Chris Tuttle from IPO Candy, in just a second. But what I wanted to point out on specific stocks is rum this morning was over $11 in the early pre-market. I think someone was trying to manipulate this up. Now, there was definitely good news yesterday in terms of this Steve Will Do It live stream. Their app rankings are up to 5 again. All that's really good. But this morning, I think, was some sort of manipulation attempt, unless we see news drop later today. It was over $11. I sold some at 905 at the open. I took advantage of that, and so far that was the wrong move, but I still have plenty more to sell if this keeps going up. So interesting price action in ROM, and I bring that up after I talked about the risk assets because I think it's a little bit related. If risk assets were crashing, if Bitcoin was crashing, RK was crashing, it'd be harder to get a move in Rumble, and same with GOEV. Here's another risk asset this morning, unusual price action, 2.6 million of volume in the early pre-market, and up 3.5%. So there's good signs here for risk assets. And in just a second, before we take it to Chris, I also want to mention there were some good earnings yesterday. Visa, which did not surprise me. I don't know why I never play this. I always go into Visa earnings. I'm like, oh, I'm not worried at all. Visa's going to do great. Why? Because of inflation. The more expensive things are, the more money people spend. The concern is, where are they spending that money? Are they spending it more on food and fuel so they have less on consumer discretionary? That's the issue. But guess what? You pay for food and fuel with credit cards also. So Visa doing really good, and no surprise to me. Now, also Enphase, which I don't follow at all, but I know that it's a very, very popular stock among traders, and they've been right all year. This is a popular solar stock we've never talked about in our community, but just pointing out they crush earnings and it's up above the 50 DMA. So listen, if you know Enphase, maybe we've got to start collaborating about that in our community. We have BTU earnings coming up. I believe that's tomorrow morning. So you can talk to Matt S. in our community about that. And I'm going to take a pause here to bring on a special guest now to talk about from Intel. Okay, this used to be publicly traded. So let's hear the story from Mobileye. Chris Tuttle from IPO Canada and SPACfest. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot, Ben. Just a couple thoughts on Mobileye this morning. They are, investors are excited about the IPO for a couple reasons. Number one, Intel bought this company for, $15 billion and change a few years ago. It was a public company. They are, IPOing it here just a little bit above. It turns out they priced at 21, just $1 above the range. So it's, just slightly more than they paid for it. And obviously the company's much bigger, much further along. There's nobody even close to them in the automated driving, driver assisted technology space. They're basically the supplier to, just about every OEM that exists. So, they're positioned really well at this sort of inflection point of combination of EVs and driver assist and safety. There's two interesting side points, I think, that I'm watching carefully, which is this is a very low float IPO. One, not that many shares are part of the offering, but also about 40% of the offering is being taken up by funds and inside investors. So what we have here is it's late October. A lot of institutions are underwater, and it's a little like, GME is to retail investors what Mobileye might be for institutions, because you can make up a few points of performance here by buying, owning, and accumulating Mobileye through year end. Because with this kind of float, I mean, they can mark this price up to wherever they want it to be. If you put a 10x multiple on it, you certainly argue that, fair value is, at least $25 a share up from the 21. But, again, this company's around a long time, tons of IP, tons of business momentum, $2 billion, let's call it, in forward revenue, turning profitable. So, institutions, I think, can really embrace this. And with the low float, we'll see where it opens today, but I certainly am looking to establish some position in it right off the bat. And then, in these markets, obviously anything can happen on an intraday or day-to-day basis. But I think institutions have got this at the top of their list for this is a name we can get into. It's liquid enough, but still has a very small float. You'd be crazy to short it. And then the last little tiny point, which I can't prove yet, but you all are familiar with the semiconductor, kind of war we have going on with China right now. Mobileye is headquartered in Israel. So in terms of supplying semiconductors and chips to what is a very big market for automated driving, it's still a controlled company by Intel, so I'm not a lawyer, But not only is Mobileye already positioned in every OEM out there, they may have some, potential loophole capability to continue to supply the Chinese EV OEMs without having to worry about violating sanctions and things like that. So I'll leave it on that, with respect to Mobileye, but that's one we'll be clearly following closely through the end of the year.
Cool. Yeah, I remember when Mobileye was publicly traded last time, and I don't remember if I ever got into it, but I remember there was a lot of hype around it because I actually had, to your point about this could be like the institution's GME, I actually had a friend who worked as just like a broker, like someone who does like trades and manages like people's portfolios at Citigroup. And he called me up one day. He's like, Ben, you got to buy Mobileye. You got to. And I thought, this is really weird. Why is this like institutional guy kind of like calling me and saying, you got to buy Mobileye, it's the hottest thing, right? So that was really interesting. I don't know if you ever got into it.
2000 and I was by mistake, I clicked on the wrong IPO deck this morning, and I have the one we posted in 2014. But like that was 2014.
Yeah.
That was when EVs and self-driving, like that was some sort of moonshot or your trip to Mars. I mean, now, this is just completely mainstream. And, again, from an institutional standpoint, they are locked and loaded on a trend, which is only up and to the right for the next 5 years, 10 years. Cool. And, one last one on Mobileye, which is very different than Tesla, is Mobileye serves the spectrum. So all the OEMs have the little car, the middle car, the big car. We all know how that works, right? 30,000, 50,000, 100,000, whatever. And, they want a system where they can put in a level 2, let's call it level 2, 3 in the cheap car, level 3, 4 in the mid-size car, level 4, 4.5, 5 in the high-priced car. So Mobileye's got like that whole waterfront of offerings that allow any OEM to configure and instrument their cars or trucks or whatever exactly how they want to and meet those consumer price points. So it's not like, hey, you want the Tesla software, it's whatever it is, 10 or 15 grand, that's it. It's not like I want the 2 grand, the 5 grand, the 10 grand. So I think Mobileye, it's obviously there's risk to any story, but I think institutions are definitely looking at this as a really safe name they're all going to want in their portfolio through the end of December. And they can just, basically they can buy themselves a few percentage points of performance in a market that has been, just miserable for them this year.
So just a couple quick things. Also, am I right in saying Intel is retaining 95% of the shares? Only 5% are going to be traded. Is that right?
That is correct. There are 810 million shares outstanding. There are 41 million shares in the deal. Intel maintains a huge stake. They definitely don't want. There's a couple. There's some T's and C's in the relationship, but Intel wants to maintain a high level of ownership and control. I don't know what one of the things we put in our note is it's bizarre, but the real relationship that Mobileye has with a semi partner is ST Micro. They don't have any real relationship with Intel on the product side. So it's basically all ST Micro. ST Micro, of course, uses TSMC. But we're going to have to watch that space to figure out what Intel is really, because I mean, there's no near-term plan for Mobileye to be really integrated with Intel at all. So at this point, Intel is more of a financial owner, than a real technology partner anyway.
Last question for you. How are you going to play this? You can see, I put it up on the screen. This is a level 2. Now, these are not, I noticed when stocks halt or they're not trading yet, like these are not accurate necessarily, but you can see all these bids above 21 up to $33 right now is a bid. And really, again, that means nothing.
I'm looking at 27, 15 to 19 on my screen right now.
Yeah. So it doesn't mean anything yet, but, How are you going to play this? Like if this opens up $25 to $30, because I'd like to play this, but I'd like to buy it at 21, and I guess that's not going to happen probably today. So
Well, you never know. IPO markets have their own, especially first days can be really interesting. You just have to watch. As you know, there's a lot of flippers. So you'll have some flipper volume that may come in and possibly push the price down from the open. But my way of looking at this is I will probably buy some small starter position, at some point in the morning after it opens, because like I said, it's got this kind of crazy low float. Just supply and demand on this thing are just completely out of whack. So I'll be playing it with
do you have a limit? Like you say you want to buy it in the morning, but like, do you have an upper limit where you wouldn't buy it if it opens too high or it doesn't reach a certain price?
I mean, 35 would be pretty insane, probably. I'm not uncomfortable with 27, but again, position size, right? Price informs the position size. So,
right.
If it opens at 27, I'll watch it, right? You'll see how it's ticking, and you'll just kind of watch the price and volume action, and pick a spot, maybe just start a position. Sometimes I use ladder limit orders where it's like, I'll buy a certain amount of stock at specific prices I happen to be around this morning. So hopefully it'll open while I'm still at my screen. But yeah, it's, you also can be patient and watch how this thing performs. We're in a market that I think is still, we've got a Fed meeting coming up next week, I think it is. But anyway, it's not a market. And, I heard your commentary on Microsoft, but I'm not saying this, but the thought that jumped into my mind is like our PC's the new barbecue grill, COVID monster buying of new PCs, laptops.
It could be. It came to that. I thought about that maybe there was, huge demand because of COVID. Now COVID's over. But, I'm thinking as far as Apple, they sell Mac desktops as well and laptops. I don't know. Maybe those are taking a hit at this point too, is what my thought was as far as Apple goes. So in any case, where can people, you got IPO Candy. You haven't run this article actually, right? You posted on Mobileye
IPO Candy. The Mobileye note is, I believe it's public. You don't need to be a subscriber or anything. So that's at IPOcandy.com. We will, be following up on Mobileye, and we'll be, of course, posting in StoryTrading, any updates and stuff that people might be interested in. And, so we'll keep you posted as we go through the next, right through the year end. I think this is going to be an interesting name to focus on.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. That's again, IPOcandy.com if you want to follow Chris's work there. And you can also join us and collaborate with him in our story trading community. Thank you, Chris.
All right. Thanks, Ben.
All right, moving on. It's 9:19. We got a few minutes left and a bunch of other stuff to talk about. Twitter. It looks like the Twitter deal is closing shortly, whether that's going to be this Friday or early next week. We don't know the exact date yet. You can see the price is moving towards the deal price of 54.10, is it, or 54.20, moving towards 54. But there was an idea shared in the group by Tony, endorsed by Alex, to buy Dogecoin. I can't pull up Dogecoin in this app here, but there's some sort of thesis out there, and it makes sense, or at least from a sentiment point of view. I don't do crypto at all, but out of respect for my colleagues to do a good job, I threw in $500 into Dogecoin last night, and it's up. We may have a presentation from them soon because I'd like to hear the thesis about Elon Musk, Dogecoin, and Twitter. So that's interesting. We're following Dogecoin going up right now because of the Twitter closing being imminent. Now, a couple other things. We killed it yesterday on Clearfield. We had the story trade thesis. This is perfect story trade. I'll recap it really quick. We'll look at multiple pillars, right? So not only technicals that close above the 50 DMA on Monday, but we also had earnings sympathy move off of CalX, CALX. So that's sentiment pillar, technicals pillar. We also have catalyst, and because the company is reporting their own earnings coming up in a week or so. So you have an earnings anticipation run plus the sympathy move, which is sentiment, plus the technical break. That's 3 out of 4 pillars right there. And we already know the fourth pillar, fundamentals, from Chris Tarbert. He thinks the stock could be, 150 to 160 based on fundamentals. So, man, I bought that stock right in the morning at like 111. I didn't get the full move, sold at 117. I have long-term shares also. These are my trading shares. Now, I'm actually hoping for a pullback today because this stock is very sensitive to SPY. It's very low float, so maybe we can get back in and we'll try to catch some support levels here. You can see one right there at like 111. That'd be a great one if you get 111, 112. So we'll see if we can reload on Clearfield. Also picked up Calm as well. They have earnings next week, same space as Clearfield, and this is right at the 200-week moving average. So this is a huge, huge trend line. If it closes above it, you can have a long-term bull market in Calm right at that 200-week moving average. Can earnings next week be the trigger to explode it above? I'm making the bet that yes, because of Calix, and they had great earnings, and they were up, and they had all kinds of price target increases this morning. So maybe that's a good harbinger for Calm to now break above that 200-week moving average on earnings next week. And so I'm in that. I'm holding that for earnings. All right. I also pointed out ADM yesterday, which I think could do a multi-day move here. This is an agriculture company that really completely beat earnings and revenue, bottom and top line, with very bullish commentary. So I entered a position on that, like $90.50, something like that. And looking at the technicals, I think you have $92 right here, the previous high right in this little congestion zone here, and then the all-time high at like 95 plus. Those are your two resistance levels. RSI relatively low. I think it gets there. This is just a multi-day mover. Maybe I'll have some pullbacks in there, but I like this a lot. So I'm holding ADM. Now, one of the big news items for today is going to be XXII. XXII is presenting at LD Micro. I believe their live presentation is at 2 p.m. So we'll double check on the time of that presentation. But look, we broke over the 50 DMA yesterday in anticipation of that event. I'm very optimistic at this point that we can make how that presentation comes out. If he sticks to his word from his prior presentation a couple weeks ago, if he ramps it up a little bit with expectations of catalyst. I was hoping for news this morning, so they have that news out there to talk about at LD Micro. So far, I don't believe we got that, but the technical action really promising, and I'm hoping for a move towards 150 to take some shares off the table. Just want to point out higher. I don't own it, but Neeraj from our community also pointed out they're at LD Micro, and then you get some kind of move. They had some sort of move yesterday, possibly in anticipation of the LD Micro presentation today. This is not a VIP pick. I don't have any official opinion on that. Well, I have a little bit. I'm leaning bearish on it just because of recessionary impacts, but we'll see. Okay, the other couple ones I want to talk about, AIAD. I'm holding this overnight. If I get a big pop in the morning, I'm selling it. If I get over the 50 DMA is what I'm looking for. It closed really strong yesterday. This is a penny stock. Be careful. But this is the one that I like the sentiment on this because of the deal they're doing with the Candace Owens backed company. So now you get the political sentiment factor in there, like you get the sentiment premium that you get for Rum and Rumble. You can maybe get that in AIAD. We've seen it before because they're linked. There was some linkage potentially to DWAC in the past. So when DWAC went public, this thing went to 20 cents. Now you're below a penny. So maybe I can get a penny out of this. And that's a nice percentage move. Very small position. It's a penny stock, risky. Be careful. All right. I want to mention Drio. Okay. Sorry, I was looking at Mobileye. Our asks are starting to come in now. Our asks at $20. $20 ask. Ooh, we may get lucky. Okay. Drio. New short interest data came out yesterday. Let me see if I could show it to you because it's not on TD Ameritrade yet. Let's go. I took a snapshot of it. It's in my photo library. There it is from NASDAQ. 1.6 million, over 11 days to cover. This is huge. If the company executes, right now, a stock's not going to go up just because there's a high days to cover. But if the company executes, I think it's being targeted simply because they missed on earnings and they're losing money, right? If people who not familiar with the stock, they're looking at it and they're like, oh, they're losing a lot of money and they missed on earnings. I'm just going to short this, short it. Now, if the company executes, that sets the stage for a big, huge move up. And, now it makes sense looking at the short position because I've been buying a lot of shares accumulating down here. I know other people who have, who are closer with the situation at the company. So why isn't the share price going up? Because the shorts are keeping it down. and that can lead to an explosive move to the upside if they execute. So I actually sent that message. I sent that information over to the CEO of Dario. I'm like, hey, check out your short interest. Just, in case you're not aware, I just want to let you know, if you guys execute, you're in a position to see your stock rapidly inflate over a short period of time. And let's just say he's optimistic as well. Okay. Basically, he's like, I think we're good. So I think we're good. They've been promising that for a while. So we'll see if they actually execute. Because if they do what they say, we should get a ton of press releases over the next 2 months on new deals. There was also some news out on Biotricity. I don't have time to really cover it. Go ahead and check that news. We interviewed the CEO, I think, twice before Biotricity. So you want to check out the news on that. Might be market moving. POWW had a fairly large deal here to South Africa in the tens of north of $15 million. A deal there, and that's compared to the market cap 374, could be significant, and it's a relatively low PE, something we've talked about but never presented. So take a look at that. So news on POWW and BTCY, and let's see if we can look at some technical levels before I leave you on Rumble, because that is holding its gains here at 908. Really tough because I don't have the full chart. I don't have lines yet here, but I guess 10 is obviously a huge psychological and technical level over here. But man, I just don't have a lot of data on this yet to have a good feel of where the resistance levels are. But basically, I'm just trying to sell on pops and buy on drops. So I sold some at 905. And if we get a drop later, I may reload it. And I have more room to sell. If we pop to 10, I guess 10 psychological level, I'll probably sell some there. And then we'll take it from there. So big move in RUM this morning, holding its gains. All right, 3 minutes left. Let's just look at the news feed. There's a big show today. Oh, XXII, they did it. Whoa, where's the stock at? 128 by 130. This is the news. It's out. They did it. I had a feeling they timed that with LD Micro. Sales, expand sales to 3 additional states: Arizona, Utah, New Mexico. So 4 corner states. Let's see if we can skim this real quick. Statewide launch in Colorado, expansion in Illinois were just the first steps. 3 more states, rapidly innovate products, much larger portion, is a massive market in need of solutions. I'm a little bit surprised the stock's not moving on this. These 4 states will demonstrate we knew it was coming, but still. All right, I got to go. I think I'm going to make some moves today. Maybe do some Mobileye, maybe catch Clearfield on a dip, maybe sell AIAD, maybe buy some XXII on this news that just came out with the stock not moving. I got to run. Good luck, guys. Have a good day. We'll be back 4:30 p.m. for VIPs on our Zoom collaboration show. All right. Take care. Bye.